Hey guys, Jim here. Wanted to share with you something very, very exciting that I got in the mail today. Something I've been waiting for, I don't know, what has it been? A little over 3 months since the announcement was made that these were going to become a reality. Before I get into anything else, I just want to acknowledge a couple of things before we really get in depth on this. Those in the YouTube community already know what this knife is, already know who the maker is, but I really want to kind of take a step back as if I'm speaking to people that have no idea about any of this. If you go back a little bit in time, there was a young man named Geoff. Oh, he was a delightful young fellow. And what he liked to do was take people's knives and turn them into something magical. You know, you go out and you buy, let's say, Zero Tolerance or a Spyderco or a Benchmade, and you get it and go, I really like this knife. It sure is kind of boring and needs a little bit of a personality. You would send it to this guy called Tuffthumbz, and he would turn that boring, plain Jane, everyday, common knife into something unique and special for you. He was a knife pimper. And I say was because he's now making I guess a graduation now to something above that. And as far as I know, he's going to be semi or fully retired from doing that to pursue this full-time knife making. And this is something that it's not an easy jump. It's not something that you consider lightly, because you can be like a knife pimper or kind of a part-time knife maker, still hold down a regular 40-hour-a-week job, come home and do that on your time off and have some fun. But when you're deciding to go full tilt and do something like a full tie frame lock, make a decent production run and try to get them out in time, you're pretty much going to dedicate your whole life to it. There's a tremendous amount of time, a lot of trial and error, and a lot of work that goes into it. So Geoff is taking a very, very big leap in his life right now, and we all know he's been doing some cool fixed blade stuff. He's done some friction folders. Listen, anytime any of the Tuffthumbz knives go up to Blade HQ, they sell out in minutes. I mean, minutes. He could send, if he sent 200, they probably wouldn't last an hour. So his name is certainly getting bigger. It's certainly getting out there, and people are coming to realize that, you know, this guy's a serious player in the game. So I was very fortunate to have received a phone call one day from Geoff, whom I consider to be a good friend. And he says, listen, I'm going to go and make those knives that I was talking about. He had two knives out at one time, the Tuff one and one that he was going to call the Tuff Tanic. And he was trying to decide which one he was going to make, kind of put it up to a vote. And I think just because of the unique blade shape and the overall unique profile of this knife, the Tuff Tanic won. So this was to be his very first frame lock effort. He called me up and says, I'm going to go ahead and make those. I'm only going to make 20. It's by invite only. Do you want in? I said, hell yeah. I mean, I didn't even hesitate, didn't take a breath. I said, I want one no matter what. He says, okay, well, I'll get back to you when we get closer. And it's been a couple of months of really hard work for him, getting everything just right. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on that. I want you to go visit his channel and watch the progression videos. Listen to how he speaks about what he's had to go through to make this come to fruition. It's been a long labor of love for him. So he contacted each of us. I call us the Golden 20. He contacted each of the Golden 20 and said, okay, you're going to get a chance to have it made however you want. When I go and make my actual production of these, it's just going to be plain tie, nice stone wash, a fairly simple looking knife. But you guys are going to get a chance to have it made however the hell you want. So I went this route, and I'm going to tell you why. I look at, this is Tuff Tanic number 3, by the way. I look at Tanic number 1 that B. Dunn got. His is just, it just grabs you. He did beautiful Timascus. I mean, the knife is a true work of art. But my whole idea from the get-go on this was going to be an EDC. This is going to be something that I want to use and use without guilt. So I wanted to get something that had some of it a rougher, darker finish, nice dark stone wash. And I had seen this frostbite treatment that he had done on a pimped knife not too long ago. And ever since I saw that, I wanted it. So I said, let's do that. Keep it. I still want to keep it kind of rough and tough looking, not overly finely finished and things like that. But we were going to do an experimental blade on this, and it ended up not working out because the request I had was beyond ridiculously difficult. So we ended up doing this. Now, this is the same blade shape that you're going to see on all the Tanics, except, you know me, I'll be a little different. I wanted a very accentuated top swedge, and I wanted it polished. And Geoff has cursed me since the day he started working on this knife. He brought the polish back all the way through the blade. Nice, thick, wide grind here that really follows that around. And I don't want to do that too much because it is pretty darn sharp. He even brought it through the tang and everything. Nicely polished. Did an amazing job. Then we did, I say we, he did the frostbite finish. It's subtle in some light and it pops in other light. Then he decided to go with a custom pivot that I wasn't expecting. I thought it was just going to be that solid cat pivot we're seeing on the other ones. Instead, he brought this really cool rock pattern out, which accentuates the frostbite, and it brings out something a little bit different. When it came to the back spacer, I was a little more specific on that. I really like the look of what Todd Rexford does on the epicenters and a couple other knives, I guess, that he's done it on. And he says, okay, well, I'll do it. So it's a skeletonized, and you can see it better from this angle. It's a skeletonized back spacer, which also makes it easier for me to use an air can and blow out any pocket lint or dirt or sand that gets in there. Very, very heavy rock pattern. And I apologize, I don't recall the steel that he used, but it was a very specific steel that gives off a very light blue hue. It only does it really in direct sunlight. I can't replicate it here. The pocket clip is different from the one that Geoff has on his personal knife. And what he's done here is he's simulated the shape and profile of the blade and did so very, very nicely. Comes up nicely, but it doesn't create a hot spot in the hand. We'll talk about the ergos in a few minutes here. Brought the frostbite treatment through into the clip as well. Very nicely done. You can feel it. It feels awesome. This is his custom lock bar. If you look at the, and I wish the clip wasn't so big, only for the video so that I could show you the other drop off that it has. Very dramatic in the way that that looks. He's offered this in a couple detents basically. He said, okay, whoever wants a soft detent or a hard detent. I kind of went for the harder detent. Oh, did you hear that? Let's do that again. And there is the ridiculously early lockup. Geoff knows that I am a very unbiased person. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you what's good and what's not. So I'm sure he was a little bit nervous about the time that I sat down to do this video. And I'm going to tell you, there's just no reason to be nervous. Now, you got to keep in mind, this is his very first frame lock. This is a guy that doesn't have a staff of 4, 5, 6, 10 people working for him. He doesn't have a ginormous shop that he's working out of with the most state-of-the-art expensive equipment. You know, he's really doing this out of his garage, and I'm sure he's going to keep growing and keep growing from there. He's been buying some really great equipment, you know, but it's a piece at a time for the needs that he has at the time. And for somebody to be able to produce a product like this with what he's working with, in my opinion, is truly amazing. His packaging is simple, but it's nice. Nice, clean cardboard box. He does include his little calling card here. Hand signed it, TuffKnives Tanic number 3, Frostbite, first 20, number 3 of 20. That was a nice touch. I can't, expect that regular productions are going to be getting that, but that was a really nice touch, and, it kind of helps you feel special. One thing I don't think I'm going to be able to catch on camera is there is a number 3 engraved on the inside of the scales. There's just no way I'm going to be able to get light in there to catch that. All right, so let's go over the knife like I would any other knife. Let's do some quick size comparisons. The closest knife I think I have in my collection to this size is going to be my Browse Reloader. Now here's what's funny. This is just about, and it's actually a little bit less because there's so much of the frame coming out, but there's just about a 3.5-inch blade to the tip. when I was looking at Geoff's videos when he's holding it and the other two people that got theirs, it looked huge. It looked like this big giant monster. It's really not. It is a tank of a knife, but it fits my hand perfectly. I mean, my hand just drops right in there. As far as a reverse grip goes, nice reverse grip on it, puts my thumb right where I want it to be, and it just works. It just fits. Let's grab another knife, because we all know this is a direct knockoff of a Medford, so we're going to put it up next to a Medford. I kid, I'm just making a comment off of some ridiculous comment Geoff had on his channel one night. So you see it's a little bit smaller. If you take off the glass breaker, they're almost identical in size. It's a little bit slimmer in some dimensions. Now remember, mine is a Praetorian T, not the Praetorian tie. Even though it's all titanium, it's slimmer like the A or G. So a Praetorian tie would actually be thicker in those dimensions than the Tanic. And if I have one more here that maybe we could do a comparison with, you know, I really don't. I have nothing else that's going to be comparable in size. We'll bring out Bodega, just to bring out a Bodega. Bodega is more slender. It's a hair longer. So there's your basic sizes. We'll get all that stuff out of the way for right now. Let me give you some macro shots of this, let you see the quality of work that he's turning out. There's my top switch. Now remember, we were not going for a full-on mirror polish. This is basically a polish after doing a hand rub satin. So it's basically a little bit shinier than a hand rub satin, but not a mirror. Same thing for the front face of the blade. Nice dark stone wash. There is his logo. He said he didn't want to make it too prominent on these. That's fine. It's fine by me. There is that custom pivot. The beautiful blues that are coming through in that titanium. And then what he did on the high portions, after he's carved all this out, is he's polished the high portions so that you get a really, really interesting effect. I'll be honest with you, this thing is damn near a work of art. I almost don't want to carry it, but I'm going to follow through on my original intentions on this. This is going to be a daily carry. I don't care if I get a whole bunch of marks all over it. This is going to be something that's going to be in my pocket all the time and for a very long time. There's the back side of the pivot. I like how I still didn't make this too utilitarian. It's still easy to access with a T8 Torx, but it's still a custom pivot like the other side is. So again, art and function built into one. The custom lock bar, the beautifully customized clip. And even though this would normally be considered a mid-tech knife, Geoff actually put a tremendous amount of handwork into each and every one of these. So I'm going to tell you right now, when the next production, the actual production becomes available, you're going to want to hurry. And I would honestly call Geoff if I were you, if you know that you want one and you're ready with a deposit in hand, because you're not going to get one any other way. These are going to sell out super crazy, ridiculous fast. Let's talk about the detent here. Let's see how it works. Sucks it in nicely. And it's just enough of a detent to let you have that blade fly wide open. He is using needle thrust bearings on here. Very, very cool how he chose to do that. At first he was only going to do washers. I know I begged him, and I'm very certain others did too, to do some bearings. So he decided to go with bearings. It makes everything nice and smooth. I chose to lubricate mine when I first got it in. It was a little bit rough. And Geoff himself pretty much broke in my knife for me. It was one of the cool little extra services he did. I added, and people always ask me all the time, so very easily, boom, right here. This was actually a tube that came from Brian Ty with a knife, but there you see, centurysolutions.com, Tough Glide. This is what I use on pretty much everything. I put a few drops of that in there, and boom, it completely changed the characteristics. He's going to probably be delivering most of these with a fairly tight pivot. Backing it off a little bit makes it nice and loose without being dangerous loose. You'll see that the blade will drop, but it's not going to just fall on your fingers. He's made this an easy knife to take care of, to do your own maintenance. You've only got 3 points of contact, your pivot and the 2 pieces back here, the 2 posts here for the back spacer. And that's it. This is going to be super simple because it is the needle thrust bearings. They are captive bearings, not IKBS, so you could take your frame apart and not be chasing bearings all over the place all day, every day. Now, when it comes to the fit, you guys know I am super picky. This fits my hand wonderfully. He's got nice, effective jimping up here without being harsh. There is nothing harsh about that at all. If you need to choke up for anything, you've got a very large depression here for your thumb. It's a practical knife. It was really meant to be a utilitarian work knife. And the ones that you're going to be seeing in his future production will reflect that. They're not going to be flashy. They're not going to be fancy. And I'm very certain if you want to pay extra, he will do all kinds of crazy things. But I had to have something that had some personality and was still usable. And I got to be honest with you, I'm pretty stoked about getting number 3. This is the first time and probably last time in my entire life I will have gotten a knife before Justin Laffer. Justin actually got number 4. I don't even know how that worked out. Dude, I'm sure that wasn't on purpose. So I'm just going to take that as a small victory because if I could have a third of what Justin owns, I would literally crush everything in my collection. That's how great his collection is. The first 20, the golden 20, are some of the most respected, and I take myself out of this particular statement, are some of the most respected people in the knife collecting community. Knowing that that group of people supports Geoff and wants to get their hands on one of these so badly that they got in on the first 20, I'm telling you right now, there's a reason for it. I had very high expectations from Geoff, and I was a little bit worried that maybe, because it being his first outing, there would be little things here and there that wouldn't live up to my expectations. And to be 100% honest, it exceeded every single one of them. It is a heavy, thick, mean son of a bitch in the hand. The finish work is beyond anything you should expect for someone that's just kind of starting out. But you got to realize, again, he has worked on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of knives. It's not like this is the first time he's touched a knife. It's just his first frame lock. But, you know, you look at early work from, you know, very famous makers now, and you look at something from very early on in their career, and there are certain things about the work that's a little bit crude because they learn as they go along. You know, you pick up, you know, I'm not even going to go into any names, but you look at some of their early stuff, and you can definitely see a difference between what they did then and what they do now. And if this is an indication of Geoff's starting point, I really want to see where he's at after 5 years of doing nothing but making knives, full-time, all day, every day. These are going to command a premium, I can tell you right now. If any of the golden 20 ever decide to sell theirs, there is no way in hell they're going to go for under $1,000, $1,200. It's going to be insane. I'm not the kind of guy that tries to twist people's arms or push them into something. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you want something unique, you want something different, something you can be proud of owning, knowing that you're supporting one of the good guys. You're not just giving money to a big corporation, and you're not putting more money in the pocket of a knife maker that's already so well established and so, I don't want to say rich, but so well off from the manufacturing or making of their knives. You want to get one of the good guys from the ground floor. Go over to TuffKnives.com. Remember, it's TUFF, TuffKnives.com. Go over to his channel if you're one of the only 3 people on the planet Earth that's not subscribed to him. Check out his stuff. Contact him and say, hey, whenever it is that you decide to make the Tanic, I want one. And dude, give him a deposit. This is not a multi-millionaire that has a shop full of equipment and a whole bunch of people on the payroll that could just go, yep, and when I'm ready to go ahead and make it, I'll call you up. You know, he's got to buy these materials. He's got to buy this titanium. He's got to do the surface grinding. There's a lot of work that goes into it that costs him a lot of money. This is a labor of love for him. So be prepared. Throw a couple hundy at him. Say, hey, make me a knife. I don't care if it takes a month, 3 months, 6 months. Just do it. Got to have one. To give you an impression of just how I feel about it, I've already told him I want a second Tanic. And when the Tuff one is ready, I want one of those as well. All I can say, Geoff, is congratulations. You did one hell of a job. I hope to see you succeed. And I'm very thankful to be able to call you a friend. And thank you for including me in this Golden 20. I think it's an amazing opportunity. And, you know, knife or no knife, no matter how much they're going to go for in the future versus how much we all paid, it doesn't really matter. It's just great to be able to call you a friend. I'm glad that I've been able to learn a bit from you. Don't go getting a swelled head. I know how you are. I just want to say thank you. All right, guys, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below.